Good morning, all of ladies and gentlemen who are here as delegate. I will request please settle down. We are going to start the second Tech Varta on building a fire resilient nation, policies and practices for safe union growth, for safe urban growth and changes required in NBC. Respected delegates, National Building Code of India was first released in 1970 and being live today as a live document. It has enrolled with changes in construction method, building material and firefighting technologies. In last more than 50 years, today's session will enrich audience from the most experienced professional on policy makings. I will now announce the moderator of this session, and please help me to welcome the moderator, Mr. Lalit, Director General and Chief Executive, National Fire Council of India. I will request Mr. Lalit, please come on the stage. Thank you, sir.
Small correction, I am Director General of National Safety Council of India, not National Fire Council. There is no National Fire Council in India.
Sorry, sir. Now I request the panelist, Mr. S.S. Varik, Director, Maharashtra Fire Service and CFO, MIDC. We welcome you, sir. Shri Y. Negi Reddy, IPS, Director General, Telangana State Disaster Response and Fire Services, Hyderabad. We welcome you, sir. Mr. Shrikant Yajala, Consultant International Code and Standard Group, FM Global, India. Shri S.K. Deri, Chairman, NBC Part 4. We welcome you, sir. Dr. K.C. Wadhwa, Senior Consultant, Fire Risk Management, NDMA, MHA, Government of India, New Delhi. We welcome you, sir. Dr. A.R. Sontake, Professor, National Fire Service College, Nagpur, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. We welcome you, sir. Lalitji, over to you. 45 minutes for the panel discussion. And then a group photo, and mementos will be sent to the respective delegates' room directly.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I once again welcome my panelist, Mr. Santosh Varik, Mr. Nagi Reddy, Mr. Dheri, Dr. Wadhwa, and Srikant, and Dr. Sontake. They are very well learned professionals in the field of fire safety, engineering, and fire safety operations. The topic of this Tech Varta is building a fire resilient nation, policies and practices for safe urban growth and changes required in NBC. That's a National Building Code. Before we delve into that subject, I would like to align this subject with the Government of India's dream of Viksit Bharat 2047. When we say Vikasit Bharat means what? The Vikas, not just in terms of how much flyovers or bridges we have built, or how many institutions we have opened, or what all other things we have. But being a fire and safety professional, my definition of Vikasit Bharat is our nation, our buildings, our institutions must be safe to work, safe to live. Our urban landscape must be the safest places. Our rural areas must be the safest places for the citizens to live happily and participate in the growth of this nation. So there are 5 goals of Vikasit Bharat. One is the economic growth, global competitiveness. If we want to be globally competitive, our workplaces must be safe for people to work, people to live. Industrial modernizations, good governance, and environmental sustainability. So whatever we do, our actions must be aligned with the goals of Vikasit Bharat 2047. With that in mind, National Safety Council of India, which I represent here as a Director General, we issue a theme for every year. And yesterday we have issued a theme for a national celebration, safety and well-being crucial for Vikasit Bharat. Our national building code is very, very crucial for Vikasit Bharat. It plays and it will play definitely a great role in our fulfilling our dream of Vikasit Bharat. With that objectives in mind, we have very, very learned professionals and government officers here who will be sharing their thoughts. So there are some thought-provoking questions for my panelists here. We have Mr. Dheri. Mr. Dheri doesn't need any introduction. He was born for fire services and framing the National Building Code Part 4 of India. Perhaps the services he has put in this profession is equivalent to my age of 61 years today. Thank you, Mr. Dheri. Sir, because you are involved in developing and frequent revisions of National Building Code, how can the National Building Code be strengthened to better address the emerging fire risks, and what do you, as such a senior professional, such senior person in the country, what do you feel, what do you recommend that the master plans, what are developed, do they align with what provisions are there in our country, fire services and the building code provisions? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Lalit. Let me make it very clear that the National Building Code Part 4 is one of the most practiced part of the NBC in the entire country. Number two, if you see the 1970 version and you see the 2016 version, a sea of change has come in there. What was being discussed earlier by the other panelists, you can see the reflection of the same thing coming into it. Every time it has been upgraded and brought at par with the international standards, I would say. Many people say that the NFPA is good and European standard is good and DIN specifications are good and all that. But let me make it very clear that those specifications may not be implemented here 100%, you know. The ground realities are different. And accordingly, what our Indian standards are there, our Indian code is there, is more realistic based on the requirement of the fire safety. We had done a change, major change in our National Building Code by bringing it, first of all, fire prevention. Number two was life safety. And number three was fire protection part of it. In the 25 code which we are bringing it now, we have added two more things, you know. Number one is the smoke management part of it, you know. Because I think most of the deaths are taking place on account of smoke only and not on account of fires, you know. So we have added the life safety, the smoke management as one part of it, And the number two is the maximum building causes are coming as electrical risk, If you see any of the newspaper or any of the TV clippings and all that after fire incident, they would blame and accuse electricity for everything, It's easy to say, but difficult to prove that electricity is the main culprit for starting of the fire. Scientifically, if you have to establish it, that how the fire started, it is very difficult to establish that electricity was the root cause for it. So these two things we are adding it into the new chapter now. But we have to make sure one part of it, what Lalit said about the futuristic approach of 1947.
2047.
Yeah. That how India should be there, Because most of the fire officers who are handling with the building designs and all that, they face a lot of problem, Because each city has a one national building bylaws. They have a master plan for the area, and they have the fire service enactment also. All these three documents, they don't match with each other. You have to marry all these three documents together for achieving the perfect safety of that area. I quote you a very interesting example of it, that somebody built a building about 100 meters tall, and there's no fire brigade in the town, What you are going to do in case of emergency, crisis and all that? Who is going to maintain those systems? Who is going to check up that systems are functional, non-functional and all that? And you are putting everybody's life at a risk, The local authorities have not even bothered to see that they have the infrastructure to handle it or not they handle it. And when the crisis comes, then they said, we will ask the neighbor state or neighbor areas to come and help us out in fighting the fire. So we have to make sure that these three documents match with each other, then it will be easy for us to implement it and make a complexes safer for our people to work there.
Thank you, Mr. Dheri. Okay, taking cue from what Mr. Dheri just said, I would like to Mr. Nagi Reddy, IPS, is the Director General of Telangana Fires and Emergency Services. Mr. Reddy, what are those key policy gaps currently hindering the development? Of course, Mr. Dheri made a very good recommendation that all the three documents must be merged together. So, what are other gaps currently hindering the development of fire resilient urban spaces, and how can they be addressed? Are there any other solutions?
Thank you, Lalit. I'll just add, I think, 3 points to Dheri sir. So, one is smoke extraction, second thing is electrical, third thing, kitchens, how kitchen should be there, and what should be the design of the kitchen. Then fourth thing, gas lines, and then whatever cooking gas related systems, and then puja rooms. These are the areas where we see the frequent occurrence of fires in high-rise buildings, even otherwise also. So my request to Dheri Saab is that you add some lines on these items also, so that the people will not go for really fancy kitchen or fancy puja room and ultimately burn the house. So these are the things. Then with regard to the resilience in the buildings in the country, building and then structures in the cities in the country, my take on this one is at different levels. Basically, in the planning stage, basically land use planning has to be appropriate for the city, number one. But when we are planning the land use, we should not forget about the old cities, older part of the cities, where suddenly in a small road, a spike of buildings will come up and where we cannot even reach, fire departments cannot even reach. So those things have to be considered while planning the cities, and then other services also should be incorporated in the planning of the cities. Then We have, as I have seen in Telangana, probably in the previous, combined state of AP also, there are enough laws related to the buildings and then fire-related things. Everything is there. Only thing is the implementation part of the laws is the difficult part, where the implementation, during the implementation, the setbacks, if the minimum setbacks have to be maintained. So in the first foundation itself, there will be violation and then nobody looks at those things. Now, I think in this country, in India, we made more laws than any other country, but when it comes to the implementation, we are a bit slack. Though we are part of the government, I can say that. So after seeing many buildings which are constructed without following the rules. Now, during the construction phases itself, the buildings, as the professor was also mentioning, the structural aspect of the building, as well as the MEP aspect, including the fire-related aspects of the buildings, have to be considered, and then, of course, appropriate designs have to be done. Then the last part is for the resilience of the buildings. The maintenance of the systems is also very critical. Now, in many buildings, what we saw, the builder have kept very good systems in the building, but when it comes to maintenance, after 2 or 3 years, the systems start, giving the problems. Now, this maintenance also, as one of the builder was mentioning, it should be maintained by appropriate trained personnel, so that whatever the investment that has been made in the building will be utilized for protection of the buildings in the country.
Okay,
these are the
so
three.
I will just, add one more question. You being in a government department, so what role the governments and municipalities or local authorities will play in implementing the fire resilience policies? Because yes, we should do this, and the building users or the developers or the architects or designers. As a government department, what, how the government department would like to help in bettering the, the fire?
Yeah, thank you, Lalit. So there is one important aspect in government systems. So most of the departments, work in isolation in different silos. My take on this is that we should work together to make the building safe and resilient to the fire or any other hazard. So while planning, at the planning itself, all of us should come together, and then while during the approval itself, we should be, doing good job of giving appropriate design. Then during execution and during the maintenance of the building. Then apart from that, the municipalities particularly, and then of course even panchayats also, they should educate the people with regard to the fire and then other safety issues. Then basically we should invest some amount of time and energy in educating the people. Now, during last 2 years I have been in this department, I think I come across only 2 people who said, can we do a little less in the MEP related, fire related, only 2 people. One fellow, he just, started from small buildings to just upgrade it to high rise, and then one more fellow. So in 2 years, only 2 builders have asked for a small concession in the fire system. No builder even asked one question with regard to the reduction, rather ask one concession.
Concessions.
With regard to the fire safety system. Now builders are ready, and then planning is there. Only thing is the people who are living, people who are using, should be aware of the requirement of the fire safety in those buildings. So that is where municipalities and then fire departments will come into picture to educate the people, and then to educate the users of the building, so that the buildings are safe.
Yeah, so that means the level of awareness amongst the builders and developers and all is increasing. Okay, and
sure.
that's why you said that.
Absolutely, there is a absolute awareness among the builders with regard to the fire safety systems.
Okay, whether it's a awareness and concern among the builder is improved, or the the fear of some punishment has increased. That may be another topic of perhaps similar take Varta sometimes. Okay. But yes, the good pointers you made, and I would like to go to Mr. Santosh Wari, who is the heading the Maharashtra state government's fire services. So, Santosh ji, what changes are, because you are an enforcement agency, and definitely Mumbai and Maharashtra, the entire fire scenario is different. The fire risks in Mumbai are different. And so what changes are needed in the enforcement of existing fire safety laws? Because the government departments, they also work under certain SOPs. They can't do what I feel right. No, what is right is perhaps defined, and there are boundaries set. Whether those boundaries need to be further extended. So what are such challenges you feel that fire safety can be further improved, provided we are allowed to do this. Your opinion, please.
So already Deri sir has told, NBC has got sufficient requirements for fire prevention, protection and life safety point of view. Implementation is an issue because we have a huge gap of fire officers across the nation. As per the survey carried out by the Ministry of Home Affairs, there is a 85% gap in terms of number of fire stations, number of fire appliances and trained manpower. So that huge gaps, we cannot do each and every inspection and audit of every high-rise building. So it is beyond capacity of the fire services.
Perfect.
So we have to involve third party. Maharashtra was the first state which we have included the license agencies. So we have the registered license agencies with the Directorate of Fire Services, wherein 3 types of licenses we issue to them. One for fire protection, water-based systems, then detection systems and alarm systems, and third is for the passive fire protection systems. So we have entrusted the job as per the NBC to that third party, and we take certification from them that they have installed the systems as per the respective IS standards, maybe IS 15105 or 13039, or for detection systems. So that third party has eased out the burden of regulating that, and we take that as a renewal also we have done away with. No renewals are required because the third party license agencies, every year they are submitting Form B in the month of January and July to the local fire services, stating that we are maintaining those systems and they are in good working condition. So these are the enabling provision. Also NBC 2016 under Annexure E for high-rise building, there is a provision for a fire audit. Unfortunately, the Fire Act or the local building rules, they don't have such type of a provision for fire audit. Because fire audit is very much important. At the initial stage of planning, the building was for some activities already designed and done. But unfortunately, after say 3-5 years, there are change in occupancy, and the challenges are very much there, wherein we have to address those issues. We require additional fire protection layers for that particular occupancy to govern, and the audit plays very important role. The audit will bring out certain points, maybe electrical, maybe lift related to the passages or to the additional layers of fire safety or life safety point of view. And that can be brought out and that we can address through the fire audit. So that is one important aspect. And again, Maharashtra, in the year 2020, we have carried out the amendment in Maharashtra Fire Act, and we have made the provision for the fire audit after every 3 years. The audit will be carried out for the certain high-rise buildings, and the compliances can be done. Awareness is the only issue, means whosoever is occupant is. While finalizing the flats, we look at the plumbing, the fittings and the granite lobbies, air-conditioned lobbies and lifts, their makes. But unfortunately, we don't demand for the pressurization of staircases or the signages of the building or the means how the fire system is there, where is the location of fire pump room, because these are the lifeline in the entire life of the building. So awareness to the people or the occupant is a very important. only due to the Factory Act and through the Directorate of Industrial Safety and Health, we regulate industrial activities, but for residential, hotels and hospitals, this is lacking, even in the residential. So we have to reach up to the masses, and FSAI doing wonderful job for awareness, and that will definitely help to reach up to the grassroots level. So these are the challenges what we face, considering the limited handful officers available with the fire officers to regulate the provisions of National Building Code. Thank you.
Yeah, Derry sir, I will come to you now. This third party, involvement of third party in building fire safety audits or inspections, and they need to have certain qualifications. Do you think at the national level we should address this issue? Because yes, Maharashtra government has addressed that, and maybe some other state governments also. Can there be a provision in National Building Code itself, so that as and when it becomes a uniform, sort of a uniform building code common for all the states, and it will address this issue of fires, a regular fire safety audit?
Yeah, very right, you said it actually. The third party audit concept was originally born in DLF only. Because when we started doing all sorts of system and everything, and still if some accident was taking, then we wanted to know that what is the root cause for it, you know. And we wanted to pinpoint each occupancy, you know, that this is the area where you need to take care of it. You know. And this would come in the shape of an audit report, which I started doing it from third party, you know, from outside the country, you know. Initially, we started doing it from outside the country, you know. Because normally in India, we feel whatever we bring it from outside, that's the best one, and the Indian things are not good, you know. But in due course of time, after doing 1 year from outside, we learned a lesson, and then we started doing it within the country only. You will be surprised to know that we were spending almost about 3 crore rupees on the fee of the audit parties which we were doing it, you know. And the area was 30 million square feet of area only. Once we did that job, we established that the number of accidents are reducing it drastically, you know. Your systems are functional round the clock, 24/7, 365 days, you know. And the people who are living in the building have a better confidence of safety than anybody else, you know. So we were the one who brought in the National Building Code. We tried it in our lab of the DLF. We brought it in the NVC. And we also spelled it out very, very clearly who all can do the audit part of it, you know. There are some issues with regard to their qualifications and exposure who can do the audit part of it, you know, which we are addressing it now in this present code also. And I am sure of it that we will find a solution so that the local fire brigades are not capable of doing third party audit because they do not have the manpower. Let's be very clear about it, you know. And if you do the third party audit also by the local fire services, it will be same mess up, you know. I am operating as a firefighter, fighting the fire. I am doing the audit also. I am prescribing the requirement for the building also. I mess up the whole thing, you know. Third party has to be independently, you know, who has nothing to do with your building and all that. Once they find out the faults in your system part of it, you know, they spell it out through the documents as well as photographs and all that. And once that document is released, you know, the party gets the entire rectification done and takes a photograph and pass it on again back to the authority saying that we have done that job, you know. So I think this is the one area which will probably, and we have also said that the local director will only decide the person to be appointed and all that based on the qualification. There is some hitch going on in the National Building Code preparation for the qualification part of it, you know, which we'll sort it out, and I think this will be taken care of.
May I add on this one?
Sure. Thank
So the DG Fire and Civil Defense Government of India, he made a committee, because I'm heading that committee, to make guidelines for this third party audit and all that. Now we have been discussing with other officers of the fire, you know, other state fire department. Basically, there is no consensus with regard to the qualification of the auditors. That is the main problem where we are stuck. So we have taken a little bit initiative with regard to this one. We tried to start this third-party audit in the state of Telangana. We got the GO also, and then we took all the standards from Varta Saab. We got only 5 auditors in the for the entire state. So the problem is we are not getting, good quality, rather capable auditors if we put the same standards like Mumbai. So we have to make some kind of compromise. We may take some information from BIS also, so that we will send the report to the government of which will become a kind of guideline for the other states also.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, what is coming out is that one is the local fire services cannot take the load of conducting the fire safety audits of hundreds and thousands of buildings within their state. Secondly, there is a need to develop pool of fire safety auditors across the nation. Okay, so it will obviously create a very good job opportunities for some experts to utilize their knowledge for the betterment of the fire safety of the country, and perhaps it could be a good opportunity for National Fire Service College, Nagpur, to look into running such courses like fire safety auditors program or something. So, Dr. Sontakke, would you like to say something on this?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And you rightly pointed out, when we want to achieve the entire fire safety, so there are 2 needs. One, technically upgraded equipments or the system available, and the knowledge of that system, installation, maintenance, and use, and the requirement. So where we say the knowledge about that, it's the awareness part. And awareness is on both the level, awareness for the safety as well as the technical expertise in that. And as you know, National Fire Service College, run by the government of Home Ministry, Government of India, established with a very basic objective in 1956 to impart the training to the in-service people. But when looking into the technicality of the subject, then in 78 fire engineering course started, and now as in earlier panel, Mr. Moreshwar, Deputy Fire Advisor, he mentioned specifically the infrastructure right now the NFS is having, and all the fire professionals sitting here, they contributed to a lot to come this college to this level. And now we have the good setup of the labs and the testing facility. Earlier, college was running 3 courses for the service professionals, apart from this some short duration courses also. But now we have designed 105 courses, which includes the audit, industrial safety, as well as the designing aspect. All sort of courses are available. And when we see the awareness is required for the designer, fire professional, knowledge to that extent, to the persons involved in the built environment, infrastructure, industries, right from the plumber to the electrician also. Because the knowledge and their awareness directly contributes to the prevention as well as the initiation of the fire. So that way, National Fire Service College is playing the pivotal role, and in future is there to support not only to the professionals or who is approaching to the college for the training, but the institutes also. The institutes who want to start this kind of courses, particularly say auditor courses or the expertise or the skill development for the infrastructure, college is ready to provide that. For that purpose, we made the guidelines also. And I'm happy to announce also, in that committee, the committee made by the Director General, Civil Defense and the Fire Services, 3 members of that committee right now sitting in the panel. Dr. Wadhwa sir, Warik sir, and myself are the member of that committee. And we formulated the guidelines to get the accreditation and recognition to the institutes, those who want to start even the courses related to the fire. National Fire Service College will provide all guidance, right from the designing the course, building the competency of the faculties, and naming the infrastructure or the support facilities they should have. So in that respect, college is ready and NFS is ready to provide the consultancy. The rules are there, it is available on the sites also, because college, National Fire Service College alone cannot fulfill the requirement of entire country as far as the awareness is concerned. And unless and otherwise you bring the awareness to the entire 140 crores of the country, people, it is not possible. So that is a big challenge, and every institute has to contribute that. Every organization has to contribute that. Many NGOs or the associations like the FSI has to come forward to contribute that. And NFS is ready to support, to provide the solution for that. So this is the one aspect, what you rightly pointed out.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the point here is that every employer has to, or every building owner or a facility owner has to understand and accept the responsibility of imparting fire safety training to their people. You may approach National Fire College, you may approach any other private organizations, accredited organizations, but training and competency development is the need of the hour, and unless that happens, we will not be marching ahead towards the goal of developed nation by 2047. Now, I will slightly move away from these administrative issues to the technological and research issues. Dr. Wadhwa, you have spent quite a lot of your career with DRDO, CFIS, and also a short span in National Fire Service College. So according to you, what role does the technology play in enhancing the fire safety standards? Do you feel the technology which is currently available in India is at par with other developed nations, or we are still behind, or do we need to develop the technology we need to develop? Do we need to develop the scientists or the engineering students? So if you would like to throw some light on this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Asking me a very relevant question, because technological intervention is anyway required, you know, as we are moving ahead with the urbanization and industrialization. So this is the need of the hour, that we need to move technology-wise also. Because with the, you know, nowadays we have artificial intelligence, IoT-based solutions. So these are the buzzwords which we are talking about on almost all the platforms when we are considering any technology related to fire safety. And a lot of work is being done also abroad. So how do we make the best use of artificial intelligence to make the country fire safe in future? So a lot of research and everything, validations are going on. So my point here is that as we are moving ahead, we should not forget one thing, that any technology which is developed abroad, we need not to implement in toto in our country. So there is always a scope, you know, to see the local conditions and do the validation, to have our own standards here, so that, I mean, there's no issue subsequent to that, because I have seen a lot of systems which were installed, which were imported and installed. Thereafter, you know, once they become dysfunctional, so then we start looking forward to the OEM. So that's my one aspect. And then IoT-based solutions, certainly, because there is a need to have, whenever we have the fire hazard in any industry for that matter, whether it's a building, the industries, or the other setups in the country. So there is always a need to have the technological upgradation to make use of artificial intelligence, IoT-based solution, and in future, you will see that you know, a lot of work is being done on the robotic also. A time will come that when the robot will only start doing the firefighting in the most hazardous areas. Like we have the hazardous industries, then we have the ammunition storage, explosive storage throughout the country. Because there's a, you know, the interface with the wildland fire is another threat which the country is facing now. Every year we are losing almost 1,200 crore due to forest fires in the country. So with the urban interface of the forest areas, industries also, a lot of hazardous industries within the city area we have. So there's always a need to find out the pragmatic solutions to handle those scenarios so that any fire which takes place, any disaster which takes place in future, we should not depend on any external agency to come and do us the favor. So this is what is required, that yes, there is a need to have the technological upgradation. So this is the right time that parallelly we start working on those things so that 10 years down the line, we have something available to us to under Make in India particularly, so that we don't face any difficulty in future.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. So the codes need to be aligned with our objectives. We need to build a competence within our country. We need to develop certain technologies, not necessarily that we adopt the technologies developed abroad in toto, because the technology needs to address our Indian, the issues in Indian context, keeping the Indian fire services and Indian safety requirements in mind. Srikanth, you have spent a lot of time in insurance sector, in FM Global. What is your opinion? How do you see that, in next maybe 20, 25 years, in each of these front, technology, the codes and the competence, how the fire resilient nation will look like after 20 or 25 years? And in fact, and of course, the fire safety audit, which the insurance companies, it's perhaps their bread and butter, okay, to make sure that the buildings which are insured by them do not have the fire incident. So over to you, Srikanth.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. See, fire resilient nation, I would like to see our nation having communities, the landscape, the infrastructure is prepared so that it coexists with fire. The ideal condition is no fire. That's not going to happen. Fires do happen. US, there are a lot of fires do happening. But we have to be, the whole infrastructure to be in such a way that we start living with fire, coexist with fire. If suppose if there is a fire in this hall, very hall, I want my active fire protection system, come into action and keep the fire plume to a limited height, and keeping the ceiling temperatures under control, and my passive fire protection, ensure that the fire remain in this hall. And I would like to see an efficient emergency response system, which come and put the fire, douse the fire, and immediately after 2 days or 3 days, the hotel is up and running. Now that is what a fire resilient nation is. I know I'm talking at a 20, 25 years, but how do we achieve it? We have many issues, in the country. I'm sure each one of you have several points to talk about, how do we achieve resilience. If I can talk about, 3 things. We need to have our codes and standards updated. National Building Code of India, if you ask me, a building code has to tell what and where to be provided, what kind of fire protection system to be provided in the building, and where it is to be provided, what kind of occupancy. Whereas the standard should tell, how it is to be done. Building code in India, we are at a fairly, our code is much better than some of the European countries. We looked at it, I would say that. But standards is something that we have to work, we have to revise our occupancy specific standards. There are many industries, our country, we wanted to be a third largest economy. We all aspire to be that. Manufacturing is something that has to play a big role. So do we have occupancy specific standards for manufacturing? Whether the National Building Code of India is covering the new manufacturing, is coming into semiconductors, lithium-ion battery manufacturing, solar panels. Are we working on that line? That is something that we have to see. And number 2, many people have talked about it is, see, we build buildings for 40, 50 years. It's not a brick that you fit and forget. The fire protection is something that you have to ensure that a regular inspection, testing, and maintenance is being done, right? Maharashtra has a model which is going on. Why the similar model should be there all across the country? If I say I come from a codes and standards background, if I can talk about, somehow it is there. I think India needs a standard a standard for inspection, testing, and maintenance, similar to like NFPA 25, which should be enforced to its true spirit. And number three, more importantly, is the data. They say what gets managed, what gets measured gets managed. We have to, if you really wanted to be a resilient nation, we have to measure certain things. We have to learn from losses. If a loss happens in the country, there has to be some data that needs to be generated, right? I don't know how many of you are aware of a standard called IS 17000. Any one of you are aware? IS 17000? Well, I'm very glad to see there are many people have raised their hands. I'm sure Shami sir also is aware of it. We worked in Bureau of Indian Standards when I was there. Smart city was a boom that time, 7-8 years ago. And then BIS has constituted a committee on smart city sectional committee. A standard has been published, which is indicators for sustainable development of communities. So resilience is also part of it. So there are 100 indicators in 17 themes. You can measure the data for each of your cities and then compare. Similar data is available abroad in other countries also. So why I'm talking about this standard? As I said, there are 17 themes, and each theme has like 4 or 5 indicators in it. One of the theme is fire and emergency response. If you look at what are the indicators that they were talking about, there are 4 indicators on fire. Number 1, what is how many? See, for every 1 lakh population, how many deaths are happening in city at a city level? I don't know. Maybe we cannot have a data at a city level, but can we have it at state level? Nagreddy sir is here, Warwick sir is here, and how many buildings in a city for every 10,000 buildings has a fire NOC? Is that 5 or 10, 100? We need to measure. What is it in Mumbai? What is it in Bangalore? Right? So these are the things that I think we have to work on, sir. I'll pause here and.
Thank you. So good points. So this is today's world is data driven. The businesses are data driven, and unfortunately, I am not sure if in India do we have a database where all fire incidents or industrial accidents are centrally reported, from where we can get some important information, and based on that information, we can devise our future strategies to reduce the accidents or fire incidents. Okay, so that is one need of the. I think we are running now short of time. Yeah, just maybe 1 minute.
3 points on this one.
Okay.
Immediately, with regard to the fire data, we are building DG Fire and Civil Defense. He started one project where the National DSR, Daily Situation Report, and which can be added to the National Data Bank. So that is going to be, I think shortly we'll be implementing that process. Romil was also saying yesterday, we are actually helping DG Fire and Civil Defense, because we are already using the same software where we have adequate data. At least in the state of Telangana, whatever data you want, it is there.
Excellent, excellent. That's a great
Number
news.
2, one request to Wari Saab, there is the technology, as you have discussed, technology is a solution, but technology is also a problem. So the EV vehicles have come maybe less than 10 years ago. So by the time 2016 building code was there was no concept of EV cars or motorcycles. Now everywhere it is there. So the EV vehicle is a major danger, particularly in cellars and then buildings.
But that's already on our agenda,
On our agenda. We want quickly, sir. So the Telangana government has already, they constituted a committee, but they took 2 years. No report has come. And we are giving permissions to -2, -3, -4, even -5 level cellars also. We need some standard, some guidelines so that we will stop, we'll give some guidelines to the builders. That is second thing.
There is one panel which is independently working on fire safety, and as regard the EV vehicle parking is concerned, they are also taking care of it.
Thank you, sir. The third thing from the field, and for the insurance companies also, is so yesterday somebody was mentioning that the fire safety rating, this is one important thing we should think of. Maybe BAS also or DG Fire and Civil Defense, they should come up with a program where the auditor can say that, okay, this building is rated like A++ or A. Based on that, we can think of, whether the building needs, active support from the fire department or they can take care of themselves. And then insurance people, they will charge according to that one. And then the buyer or occupier of the building, whether to invest money or not there, they will think about it. This thing I think we should think of very quickly so that the resilience part also will be taken care in this standard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think very good suggestions or recommendations that have emerged today out of this wonderful panel discussion. I know Mr. Dheri, he has the responsibility of producing a better and better National Building Code Part 4, and very important pointers have come. So I thank each one of you for your valuable time and insights, and that I'm sure it has benefited the audience
one question.
here. Yes.
One question to Mr. Negi. Mr. Nagi, sir. So I'm coming from Hyderabad. So I just wanted...
one last question.
Yes, sir, just one question, and it's a very, very relevant question I wanted to ask. Because, Mr. Dheri made a very good point that most of the fires are, the source may be an electrical, source. But then not electricity and isolation, it can also be, some complementary thing might be there in terms of gas or grease or some fire load material that further triggers. And we also understand that more than the fire, the devastation is caused by smoke. So I have seen at least a couple of incidents where after a fire incident has happened, when the fire department people have come, they have not been able to enter the building because of smoke. And in both the incidents that I have seen, it only required very simple things, and it required somebody with a fireman's suit, with a self-contained breathing apparatus, maybe, in addition to that, some smoke extraction systems. So my point is that is there any constraint in terms of equipping the fire personnel and having a standard operating procedure in place that when they come, they just don't use fire hydrant as a source of extinguishing, but also look at how they can extract the smoke, how they can enter a building, identify the source of the fire within a limited time, and maybe easily put out the fire.
I'll give a quick answer. We don't have any problem with equipment. The problem is to take that smoke extractor to whichever the floor the fire is there, and then installing and then doing that, that extraction, number one. Number two, in case of the cellars, we are asking the builder and then MEP consultant to go for a testing and then installing those fire extraction and then fresh air inlet, that kind of thing. But in case of the above ground area, there are no specific guidelines. There is already working out. I think this is one of the important agenda this time in the NBC.
Sir, in both these incidents, at least that I have seen,
I think we are running, gentlemen, we are running short. No, please. We are running short of time. There is another session. The panel will be available to address your question. So thank you so much.
Chairman, one minute.
Dharkar ji, yes, okay, please.
Just I want to complement this question with a small answer that to me in this country, and also I'm correcting, and last 2 months I've been doing research after Warik Saab advised us to do a session on smoke management, and from FSI, from ISHRE, from ASHRE, from AMCA, and also BMS industry, we did a lot of research. You have to trust me that I didn't see a proper document throughout the globe which talk about this integration. So with that aim, FSI is taken a lead, and on 6th and 7th of March, we have put a conference together in Mumbai, which will be the first attempt in the globe to integrate everything and come up with documentation. It is a hardcore workshop we are doing. It is not a seminar. And I'm expecting the knowledge in this hall to overflow there. It is a very serious matter. And we all understand that. So it's a passionate help the industry will get if, and that should get percolated to the codes. So Deri Saab is there, Parikh Saab is there, all the stalwarts are here. This is a need of ours, sir, and we need support from all of you, sir.
Thank you, Dharkar Saab. So yes,
Lalit sir,
I think we
just
agree.
One thing, regarding the third-party audits, what you said, FSI is working towards it, and we have created FSI accredited professionals.
Yes,
where
I think the audience is aware about the FSI accredited
we can also
auditors
want to be the audits in future.
Course. Okay. Similar training programs and certification programs and 5-star programs are available from National Safety Council also. That's what I am keeping my interest also in the picture. Okay, sir. Yeah. So thank you so much. I thank each one of you. I think if you have any other question, they can be addressed by individual panelists later on.
Thank you, Lalit sir and panelists. I will request stay on the stage for the group photograph.